This is a podcast about the First Crusade and what Musafar al-Abuwardi wrote about it in his poem, uh, The Fall of Jerusalem. Um, I'm going to call him Abu. The first question of the assignment asks for us to just discuss the author, who they were, and when and where they lived, and their views on the Crusades. Abu was one of the few poets to write about the recapture of Jerusalem by Christian forces in 1099. In the poem, the Iraqi poet urged his Muslim brothers to recognize the defeat as an act of war against a religion that desperately required a response. Abu lived at the time in Baghdad, um, and he was born 1064 and died 1113. He was known for being pious, a historian. He was known for his humility, very religious person, and very well respected in his time. I could find very limited information about him, so that's the answer for number one. The next question just discuss me discussing the points that the article, or in this case the poem, um, focuses on. The first point would be, I think, for Abu, was to identify the brutality of the First Crusade and the slaughter that everyone experienced, Muslim and Christians alike. Um, and I think this is signified in some of the wording that he had. Sorry, my dog. In the poem, which I'll cover next. The next point, I think, of the poem was, again, to just get a response to the Crusader victory from the Muslim world, and call for help or justice for the Muslims who were still in Jerusalem and needed aid from the caliphates. I think that's how you say that, caliphs, um, in Baghdad, which is where Abu was residing at the time. So I think those were the two main points. He did it by painting a picture with his words and kind of describe what war actually looked like. And he motioned for Muslims to kind of take a stance and look at the defeat as, an attack on their religion. Stop. So, in my own words, my reactions to the document, the first line from the poem, I would say, best summarizes the poem would be, "Dare you slumber in the shade of safety where life is as soft as an orchid flower." There you get to really feel the contrast of life from those in Jerusalem versus the rest of the Muslim world. It's particularly in Baghdad where Abu was. It serves to motivate but also remind them of their Islamic principles, and what they should be called to do if you look at it from a religious viewpoint. The second line of the poem would be, "This is war, and the man who shuns the whirlpool to save his life shall grind his teeth in penance." So for me, that's notifying or reminding them that they must act as if this is an attack on Islam, which were by their religious standards require reaction. Initially, the First Crusade, from a Muslim perspective, wasn't about religion. It was about land and territory, which I agree. I believe that's what it was always about. But because the Muslims lacked the connection, or didn't make the connection between the Christians looking at this as a religious war, I think that they lacked some passion, and Abu is calling for that passion and reminding them of the commitment they've made to Islam that would require them to protect their ability to worship, and then also their land where they believed, all these great things occurred. The next question is, do I agree or do I disagree with the ideas? I think yes, I agree. If you focus on religion alone, then you must respect what you believe, and if you focus on the land alone, then you have to explore why it would be impossible to want to give up a place you call home to outsiders for the sake of their ability to worship. Now it seems that if you're looking at it from a religious standpoint, which is what I think Abu wants them to do, then you have to be called to react to this defeat. And so in that respect, I guess I agree with the document. A further question that the document raises for me would be the actual question on the poem, which is at the end, which is written by the translators Costello and Gabrielli, which is, what is the poet's view of warfare with Christian forces? Well, I think his view is to make sure Muslims really understand that this was a very brutal attack, and it was he talks about we have mangled blood with flowing tears, and that there's heads rolling at the feet of Muslims, and so that it kind of speaks to the gruesomeness. I know it's the Middle Ages, but that would be what I think the poets view on the warfare with Christians, is that they were brutal. The other part is this brutality, for Muslims, or for Abu, I think he viewed Christians' ability to be so brutal as I guess I would say, a distancing from their religious views, because they came to attack and the Muslims didn't. They were attacked. So I think maybe he might have not had a respect for Christians because of their ability to be so brutal. That's just a possible answer on what I think he views the warfare with them as. And then, of course, obviously, they need to defend their religion, which is one of their tenets of their religion. The next question is, what are the main lessons I learned from this assignment? I think this poem is worded beautifully. I think that if I were a Muslim living in these times in, one of the safer cities outside of Jerusalem, and I, were a man, I think that I would be compelled to respond, which is what the poem calls for. And I think the other thing that I learned from this week is that, I'm happy that we did look at the Muslim viewpoint of the Crusades, because it kind of seemed initially, or maybe just my own personal bias, sees the Crusaders as, good, holy people trying to restore some sort of peace where they worship, but and then see the Muslims as like these, not so positive, negative forces that were so brutal and causing so much destruction. When in reality, it was sort of a balanced type of situation, and I'm happy that I was able to learn some more about that. So that's what I learned from this week's lesson. Thank you.